Alright, so here are my thoughts about cycle tops and bottoms. Hopefully, I can keep this under 5 to 10 minutes. Well, what we're looking at right now is Bitcoin on a weekly chart. So, the first thing that you should notice in this Bitcoin weekly chart is that I've set up trend lines. I have an ascending trend line for just the cycle tops period, and I got this trend line because I took the top of the 2017 bull market cycle, and I connected it to the top of the 2021, which was the top at the time before the drop and the retrace or correction. So, using these two as touch points, I was able to come up with a trend line, upwards trend line, and I did the same thing for this bull market cycle, this cycle, for 2025. I was able to get a bottom trend line. Now, this top trend line kind of gave me an idea of where the top of this market was going to be for 2025, and as you can see, the top hit exactly. You have the top here, and then you have what is your next next high, and two touch points are basically all you need to set up a trend line. So then you'll see, as you can see, the next touch point happened in July, and then the next touch point happened in August, and then the last touch point probably happened in October. Before we dropped. Now, in that, in order for us, in my opinion, in order for us to have been able to see like higher prices, we would have to have broken out of this, come back, retest, and then take off. And that just didn't happen. Like as you can see, the volume was not there to push this above the trend line. So we dropped. Now, we also have what I view as a bear market, or a bottom trend line. Not necessarily a bear market, but a bottom trend line. And what you see from that trend line is, again, it's touch points. So this is pretty much, in my opinion, the start of the real start of the bull market cycle for 2025. It's happened in 2024, and it was based on this breakout. And you have a touch point here, so this makes this an official ascending trend line. And as you can see, this touch point was actually respected. Your price dropped below, but it wicked below, but this candle closed, and this next candle bounced off of this trend line and started to head up. So in the next candle, this candle bouncing off of this trend line is starting to head up. We're still bullish. When this finally breaks and it starts to head down, then I would say that we're bearish. Now, why do I feel like that at the current moment that we're in a bear cycle, or we're headed to the bear? I have three different indicators that I use. It's the 200, it's the 50, and it's the 20. But we're not going to worry about the 20 right now. We're only going to focus on the 50 and the 200, just to give you an idea of my thought process. Now, if I go based on history shows that in every market cycle, whenever we had our top, as long as the price of Bitcoin stayed above the 50 week moving average, then we were bullish. But when we broke below the 50, you'll see that we dropped. Each time that we dropped down to the 200. And this is the 200 week moving average. 200 week moving average normally symbolizes the bottom. So anytime we break below the 50, the price reverts back to the 200. And I'll show you multiple examples. Like here's an example, and this was the COVID. This was pretty much the COVID Black Swan event where we broke below the 50 and the price went to the 200, wick below, played around, and recovered back above the 50. Once it's above the 50 week, moving average. Now we're going up. Now we're going up. We come down. We try to break it this time. We wick. We have a candle close below, but then we have the next candle that closed above. Now, in order for this to have been like a signal for a bear market, we would have needed a second full candle to close below. It didn't happen, so we bounced, we got higher, and we came down. And this time we had one full candle close below, and then we had the second candle close below, which was basically the signal for we're headed to a bear market. And as you can see, the price consolidated in this area, and it tried to break back above the 50, but it could not. Volume wasn't there, so you had one candle above, and then you just had the second candle after that to break below. And once it was broken, the price headed down where? To the 200. Now the price would have traded around the 200 range, but you got this one last flush. And if you really pay attention to what was going on during this time, this was the FTX, Terra Luna scare, Three Arrows Capital, Voyager. Like, this was that scare where a lot of people were liquidated and a lot of money was lost because of what happened with that. But that caused the price of Bitcoin to drop well below the 200. But anything below the 200 or at the 200 is considered the bottom. So this was the opportunity to load up, because once we broke back over the 50, you can see the price bounced on a 50, bounced again, probably traded a little bit below it, and probably not. It stayed within that 50 range, and this is still the bottom of the market before it finally took off. Now, once it took off, you can see that the price went up, came down, went up, came across, tested the 50, tested the 50, tested the 50 three times before it bounced. Now we have another bounce coming, and we have the price going up, and we get a pullback. And what does it pull back to? It pulls back to the 50. Test the 50, test the 50, test the 50. Cannot break it. So since it can't break it, we get another bounce. And in our next bounce, we come and we test the 50 this first time, and then right here is where we have, like, we break below the 50. And like I said, your first candle below the 50 does not signify a bear market. It's your second candle close. What is the second candle close? So now your second candle closes below the 50. High volume below the 50. So now we're below the 50 week moving average. Now, if we go back and we look, every time, and I'm comfortable with saying every time that we broke below the 50, the price always went back up to test the 50 before coming back down and finally falling over. So we have it right here. We have here where we broke below the 50, and the price came back up to test the 50. It actually broke above it before going back down. So if history is going to repeat itself, then we'll have a situation where we're going to break below the 50, and then price should consolidate in this area before it goes back up and it tests the 50 or tries to break above the 50. And that could be in the 100,000 range, it could be in the 104, 105,000 range or whatever. But expect price to go up and to test the 50 before falling back down and breaking down. And depending on how long it takes for this to happen, the 200 is going to still be slowly moving up, so that when we do hit a bear market and we do get this drop, look for Bitcoin to be in maybe the $60,000 to $65,000 range. Bitcoin is not going back down to your 20,000s, 30,000s, or anything like that, unless there's some kind of black swan event that's going to make the price drop well below the 20. Bitcoin should be in this 20 range. So with that being said, what do I think that Bitcoin is going to do now? Right now, I think that Bitcoin, and I want to go to the daily to show you this. When I go to the daily, I look for the resistance because Bitcoin has bounced off of this bottom trend line and the price is heading back up. So now that the price is heading back up, now I have to find where the resistance zone is. And if I find out where the resistance, if I pay attention to where the resistance zone is, you'll see that there's a lot of activity right here in 101,000 to the 99,000 range. So what I expect Bitcoin to do is to consolidate and bounce around in this area until it comes up and it tests this range. Now, with enough volume, it will probably break through, but I don't think it's going to sustain itself because there's not enough volume. There's not going to be enough volume to really push Bitcoin back out of this bear market. So I feel like that it eventually is going to break through, and then you'll get a second wave of selling. And once that second wave is done, then Bitcoin will drop back below this resistance, and then it'll finally break through this trend line, this ascending trend line, and head down to the 200. That's what I believe that'll happen. In my next video, I'll discuss altcoins, but that's what I think is going to happen with Bitcoin in this bull market cycle. So do I think we're in a bear? I think we are in the formations of a bear, and I do believe that we will eventually drop down to the 200 before we get a reset and we start everything over. Hope this video was helpful. Peace.